Take it away.
Welcome to the Midday Show. Is your microphone not working?
No, we're going to find out. I don't know if it's working out. But here's the thing. The title of today's show is brought to you by Mark Mussina. This is the first time ever. This is a Mark Mussina written, created, directed, produced, researched. What else am I forgetting?
I don't know. I think you covered it.
This is a Mark Mussina. This is really a Mark Mussina-based show.
I am ready.
I'm ready for it. I am. This is the most relaxed I've ever been doing the show. I'm sitting back. I'm waiting to see what you have. I'm going to respond. I kind of know what you're going to talk about, but I have a feeling I don't really know all of it.
Well, you don't, because I don't know all. I'm just finding stuff.
Okay.
Well, we will throw, like a half hour, 45 minutes from now, I'll throw the NBA playoffs to you, so at least you have something you can talk about.
Something that I'm knowledgeable about, at least.
Yeah.
Something where I'm not pretending.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Are we going theme song? Or are we
Yeah, let's go. Let's rock and roll.
Well,
because if you want to hear the theme song, you can just go over to the bar on Market tonight and hear Dylan Rockoff play.
Is he playing tonight?
He's at the bar on Market tonight. You can go listen. So if you enjoy our theme music, if you enjoy the opening song, you can probably go hear it tonight in downtown Williamsport.
All right, I have a meeting at 6, and I have a meeting at 7.
Uh-huh.
And then I think after my 7 o'clock meeting, it could be good.
There you go.
I didn't know he was in town.
Oh, yeah.
Good for him.
He's there.
So anyway, I said, should we do a show today? And you're like, well, I don't know. You're maybe I was like, well, Tina Turner. You're like, I don't know a lot about Tina Turner. I said, I like it.
Okay.
So there we go. Tina Turner is one of the, if you're of my generation, if you've never seen the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, it's of the biopics, it is a great one because she did not have an easy go of it. Obviously, she's eminently talented. She was eminently talented.
Yeah.
But just it shows so many aspects too. If you just, in a 5-second summation, you're like, oh, what a neat story and what a hardship and what a triumph. But when you look at the psychology of both her, just like having the guts to show up when she was 17 years old, watching this guy play guitar and ask at intermission, can I sing soft?
Yeah.
And then the guy who was, a lot of people don't know this, there are many music historians who think Ike Turner wrote the first rock and roll song.
Okay.
It was called like Rocket 66 because, music has new sounds and new this, and they didn't know, like, oh, look, we have a new thing. It's called rock and roll, and this is it.
Okay.
So, in retrospect, when they go back, Ike Turner's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, too. Like, he was an accomplished guy, other than he's known now as a spousal abuser. It is a really just what he went through, and how he obviously handled it poorly. But he was the guy, and now all of a sudden he brings his chick into the band, and she's a really good singer, and now she's the show, and now he's just the guy standing in the back writing the music, playing the guitar.
Okay.
And his emotionally couldn't handle it.
Okay.
And it's an unbelievably triumphant, with every triumph there needs to be tragedy, and it had it all in it. But
can I give you
I said yesterday, real quick, and I'll finish. She was one of and she showed up in the Hairspray era.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was in the 80s, and she'd come back, and the older generation knew her. And but when Private Dancer comes out, this is the middle, Motley Crue and Quiet Riot and all the, to us guys. I don't think there's anyone who didn't like Tina Turner.
Okay.
Even the people who she didn't fit your genre, she didn't fit your style. And I commented that on a thing yesterday. She was one of the rare artists or entertainers that everybody liked.
Uh-huh.
And that's one of the things I think that made her very unique.
So just because I don't have a lot to contribute to this, the generational gap, you and I we talked about this before. The unique thing about her is for a lot of people like my age and younger, she's really just known for getting the crap kicked out of her, which is like, I know that's an awful thing, but that is like my first recollection of Tina Turner is in the movie Liar Liar. And Jim Carrey makes a throwaway joke where he goes, where would women be if Tina said, hit her again, Ike? And that's like the first time I actually looked up who Tina Turner was because I heard it in the movie Liar Liar as a kid. It's a weird gap. Like you and I have argued about like Madonna before and how like would people recognize her under the age of 35 or wouldn't they? Tina Turner, unfortunately, for a lot of people like under that age, Now and Then, the one girl in Now and Then, the movie with like Christina Ricci and Rosie O'Donnell, and the one girl wanted to be Tina Turner essentially. Like she used to do up her hair and sing Tina Turner songs, and so there's this weird disconnect. Like for me, I don't really know the performer Tina Turner. I only know like I make tabloids. Were tabloids a thing then? But I only know like the tabloidy version of Tina Turner, which is too bad.
There's a generation that only knew O.J. Simpson as the murderer criminal that didn't know him as a football player.
Right.
So no, I do get that. But just her story, back, we think of women in music, and obviously you go back, there's Streisand, and there's Aretha, and all the way back to Judy Garland, and whatever. But still, the walls for these people, there was nobody thought the Go-Go's would sell, and they were this band, and I think they were in California, and they were like, wow, you can't get like all-girl band, they're kind of punkish, they can't sell, and somebody signed them, and somebody put the album out, and went to number one. And when Tina Turner had left Ike, she was in her mid-40s.
Okay.
And there was this aspect like, we can't sell her. She's a, what woman is 45 years old as a rock star? Like this, it just doesn't work. And obviously it did, because she had someone with vision but it wasn't just like when she showed up, they're like, oh yeah, you'll do great. And so that's also what made the story triumphant.
Yeah, she made it to 83.
Yeah, she was 83 years old.
I mean, for a rock and roller, 83. That's saying something.
She said, my mic isn't working?
Yeah, do you want to switch?
Is it not?
No, it is not. I cannot fix it. So we can either make a point of it or we can keep going. It's up to you. People can hear you. They just can't hear you as well as they can hear me. Would you like to take mine and then they can hear you better?
Move closer to you?
You can, but you got your laptop. It's up to you. It's your call. This is your produced show. So this is, it's your decision how you want to play this.
Well, it's not fair that if I unplug here. Let's do this.
Heather just said Mark projects well, so it's up to you. It's how you want to play this. This is one of the greatest moments in Midday Show history. This is fantastic.
Well, see, I'm just gonna spin here.
Yeah, you're gonna be good.
I'm gonna get the logo in the background.
Oh yeah.
My plugger thing.
Would you need to be plugged in though? Will your battery make it? Is it a newer laptop or an older laptop?
It's not about the battery.
Okay.
It's about the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So I can unwrap it because I have to run up through my desk.
Heather says we can totally hear. It's just obvious the mic isn't on.
Here, can you still? Am I still good?
Yeah, they can all hear. Yeah, you're good.
All right, then I'm on, and I'll get the logo in the background.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're almost done with it.
You're pretty good.
We're almost done with it. We're getting there.
You are more talented than anyone would ever guess.
Yeah, that's one of it's like the nicest and rudest thing you say to me a lot of times is like you're a lot smarter than people than you look, than people think you are.
No, I always say Jeff's a lot smarter than he looks. That's my favorite line.
But you've gone in depth about it because you're like, you walk in like you're this unassuming guy, kind of roly poly, like you just kind of right, and then
I don't know if this is any like you very round features. And I think round and jovial kind of go together. I'm
sure.
When you think of people with, I think like the nerdy Poindexter-ishy, I think people are very jagged and very.
I see what you're saying.
You're just like Santa Claus. I'm like the uncle who is always fun. Is all it's like, and that's.
I get it.
You're just have.
It makes. I understand what you're saying.
You don't have pointy features.
You're the first person to. I'm sure you're not the first person to call me stupid. You're just the first. I know you're just the first person to be like, you know what? Like you don't look as smart as you are. Is essentially what you said.
Okay. Yeah.
You're the first person that's ever said that to me.
Yeah, you are. I tell people.
Do you still have your notes? Do you still have your show notes? Were you able to bring them with you?
I think I do. So here, I wanted to do
this. All right.
Now hold on. So I wanted to throw. This is okay. I gotta close some stuff out. Just enunciate your fine.
Okay.
So these are things I found this on. I guess this was originally posted on Reddit.
Okay.
These are things that happened at the same time in history.
Ah.
Okay.
Like the same day or the
Not
same?
just at the same. These were happening simultaneously.
Okay.
Spain was a fascist dictatorship when Microsoft was founded.
Yeah, not to cut you off, the dictatorship stuff. Do you know how many dictatorships there are still in the world today?
More, yes. But like Spain,
I know.
Spain seems to be like an advance.
I guess. I think there's a lot of people that'd be shocked if they actually knew which countries and how many countries were still under a dictatorship.
Okay. When Harvard was founded,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't take calculus because calculus hadn't been discovered.
That one's hard to wrap your head around. What else you got?
Two empires, the Roman Empire and the Ottoman Empire,
Okay.
spanned from Jesus to Babe Ruth.
Interesting.
Now, I had to look up the Ottoman Empire. It's also known as the Turkish Empire. The Ottoman Empire ran from the 1400s to just into the 20th century.
So you're saying that each individually ran that length, not like combined they did?
No, yeah, back to back.
Oh, back to back they did. That's a little more okay.
For 2,000 years.
That's a little more believable for me. At first, when you said that, I was like, "That's incredible." Now I can kind of buy into it.
When the pyramids were being built, there were still woolly mammoths.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. That one is mind blowing.
I knew this one, and I don't know if you knew this one. The last time the guillotine was used in France was the same year Star Wars came out, 1977.
Can you I know we still have the death penalty and different things like that. There's something about the guillotine that's just.
I mean, 1977. Guillotine. And I did know this one too, and this is the last one of my deep little facts.
Yeah.
Oxford University was 300 years old when the Aztec Empire was founded.
Wow.
Oxford University is from like 900 or something, but like it is bizarrely old. So
I think there's something weird because think of it this way: in order for European cultures or anything that was happening in that realm, like those empires that you talked about, they had to discover everything that was in the Americas. So in order to do that, you would have already had to have had ships, you would have had society, you would have had, very basic technologies. So some of that stuff is really more divided between the Atlantic Ocean, right? I mean, it's really like all of this stuff was going on over here. And then finally they came across the ocean and they discovered the Aztec,
you would have thought.
Do you get what I'm saying?
That they would have discovered that fascist dictatorships don't work. Well, I guess they work out for the dictator, but all right. Now, where is this? Don't tell me I lost. No, okay, no, here it is.
Okay, what are we doing next? By the way, I enjoyed that. That was good. That's some of the better clickbait you have ever brought to my attention.
I actually did that kind of just I didn't even find that. That was kind of found me.
All right.
I don't want to pretend that I was smart there. This one was something about what women want, whatever, and I can't go. I'm afraid to go back because I'm afraid I'll lose it.
Okay.
But this is a 6-question quiz, and I told you beforehand. I read you the first question.
You did.
So you know the first question.
Yes.
And you said, just to warn you, I'm going to kill it on this quiz.
I have a feeling I'm going to be good at answering some of these questions. Okay. I may actually help some people today.
Okay. Question number 1.
Yes.
After a really great date.
Real quick, what's the name of this quiz?
I don't know. Something about
social quiz or something like that?
It's basically about to help guys what women want.
Okay.
Essentially, I think.
All right. Go ahead.
So after a really great date, the best time to text her is that night, the next day, 2 to 3 days, or wait for her to text you.
Okay. Is there a right or wrong answer? Do you get to pick the? Okay.
I think once you guess, then it'll take you to the next one.
Okay.
Be a lot of options,
all right. So sometimes you hate me because I dive into some of this stuff too much, but I think you'll appreciate this.
You have to think this one through out loud.
So I think read my options one more time. Same night.
That night.
Yep.
The next day.
Yep.
A couple days later.
Yep.
Or wait.
Okay. So here's one of the things that I'm going to throw out there first. And you and I have talked about this. One of the strongest things if you're dating, because I was a little bit of a serial dater through my 20s. If you're dating, one of the best things you can do is know your strengths and weaknesses. Like if you just go into dating and you're trying to emulate what your friends do or what your siblings did or so, you'll fail because you're not going to have the same strengths. So for example,
in dating, we mostly fail anyway.
That's true. Very, very true. So one of my strengths was like I was very aware of who I was and I was very aware of my strengths. I was not going to woo somebody over the first time I met them or the first day. I'm not that person, right? But I can make you laugh. I can like make you think you're having a good time, even if you don't want to be there. I can make you at least say, okay, well, at least like that was a funny conversation.
And you can make
I have had, but by the time you're 23, they don't care about that as much. Unless you got a contract, they really don't care about that by the time you're 23. So here's what I would say. My answer, personally for me, I am that night. And what I'm doing is I'm reverting back to something we laughed about that night. So I'm not asking them on a second date. I'm not saying, do you want to go do something? I am simply throwing out like we heard a Britney Spears song and we said something about the line at the same time. And then later that night, I'm just throwing the line back out there and just getting one more kind of smile or laugh before the end of the night.
All right.
Okay.
It either has to be that night or the
Yes.
next day.
Yes.
You can't wait longer.
You can't wait. But see, here's the thing. I think some people think by doing it the same night or the next day, that's coming on strong. Come on light in the message, but you want to be early.
Right.
Be early, but come on light. That's what you want to do.
So I'm going to click this
Okay.
one.
Did you go same night or no?
Same night.
Okay. All right.
Okay. If you have really strong feelings for her,
okay.
There's only 3 choices for this.
That's okay.
It's best to tell her. She needs to know the truth.
Okay.
It's best to just act on them. Whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
It's best to hold back until she feels the same way. Don't want to push her away.
Interesting. Okay. So initially my answer, before you read the 3 choices, my first thing I was going to say to you is you just kind of want to be consistently there for them. So if you're interested or if you like them, if they ask you to go somewhere, you need to go. You don't need to tell them you're in love. You don't need to do this or that, but you need to be like proactively involved in opportunities and then consistently be yourself and around them. Consistency to me. So how do I answer that with saying consistency?
I think we agree. It's best to tell her is bad.
Early on's tough.
Early on, you don't want to.
Early on, you don't want to.
It's better to act. It's better to actions speak louder than words.
And that's why I said like show up. Like if you know she's going to this bar or that party or whatever it is, show up, be present, but like don't overkill it. Like she doesn't need to know that you're already picturing a house and the kids.
So these aren't great answers. But we're gonna go with number 2. It's best to just act on them. You don't want to like hold back and be like, well, I like you if you like me. Like if you like her, you like her. So
yes.
The 3rd choice is best to hold back. So we're going to go with it's best to just act on it.
Yeah.
What do most women think is important in a long-term relationship? Oh, here we go. I'll just read. A provider, a soulmate, or a rock?
I would be so bad. I have so many failed relationships. The idea that I would know the answer to this question is absurd.
But what do you think women think?
What do I think they think?
Say it one. A provider, a soulmate, or a rock?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the person. I don't know if it's like one set. In my experiences, more times than not, say the first one again.
Provider.
Yeah, I would say more times than not, they're looking for attention's too rude of a word. More times than not, what I have found is like, there's just this sense of like, are you into me and are you providing? And that's typically what I would say. That would be my opinion. More than like a soulmate or a rock. I think what eventually happens is they realize like, this person is my soulmate or this person is my rock. But I don't think initially like that's what they're looking for.
I would go with soulmate.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think.
But what is like?
Provider's too practical. Now, love is not a practical thing.
Time out.
I know
you think
in long term, but I think they want.
But in the short term, what does that even mean? Like in the
soulmate?
like in your first 5 dates, how do you show that you're their soulmate.
Well, this is
you can't really show that
in a long-term relationship.
Okay, that's
no,
true.
I get it, but it's still. I don't. I think provider takes all the excitement and the romance out of it. Provider's too practical. It's too like accounting.
See, that's I don't disagree with you. I took the word provider more of kind of like gift giving, act of services, all of those things you do early on to kind of hint to them like you're into them, right? Like that's to me, that's kind of how I took providing.
So long term, is it a man who can financially take care of the family, a man who's a soulmate who they connect with deeply on all levels, or the Rock is a man who knows himself and what he stands for?
I think what they need is the Rock. I think what they wish for is the soulmate. But I think what they really want early on is the provider. That's what I think. That's my experience.
Provider.
Okay.
You were going to kill this.
Okay.
For most women, the most arousing thing to do is be touched in a sensual way.
Okay.
See arousing visuals such as photos or videos.
Okay.
Have romantic conversation. Or be spoken to with dirty talk.
That's interesting. This is
so touch, visual, conversation, and then the conversation's either romantic conversation or dirty conversation.
How far in are we?
That's a good question.
It doesn't say, does it?
Minutes.
Phrase the question. 15 Say that. Repeat the question.
For most women, the most arousing thing to do is.
Okay, that's it.
I will say this. And
go ahead.
We work backwards.
Yeah.
It's not visual. Women are not as visual as men.
I think early on in the dates, I have noticed that the strongest thing you can do is like a leg touch, a hand hold, an arm around. Like usually I have noticed in experiences that like usually that is the way to go. It's usually some sort of physical motion to kind of lead on like, hey, like I'm into this. Okay. That's what I would go with.
She tries to cancel our first date.
Yes.
My response is it's cool. When can we reschedule it?
No.
Okay. Let me know when you're actually ready to be serious with someone.
No.
All right. I'll cancel the private jet. No worries. But you owe me a bottle of wine when we reschedule. I'll let you off the hook, but leave the door open.
Was that all one answer?
Well, it was kind of.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So there were three choices.
So the first is it's cool. When can we reschedule?
No.
Let me know when you're at. So the first one is just kind of playing it cool.
And we already know it's no.
The second one is being pissed, and the third one is making a joke.
Okay, so I don't like the way they went about making the joke in the example, but the answer is number 3. I would not have done it that way, but number 1 and number 2 are disasters.
I agree.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I agree. I could not agree more, actually.
Thank you.
So you got to go with the joke. Okay, if you could improve one thing with women right now, what would it be? Wait, is that right?
That can't be the question. Is that really the question?
Oh, that's stupid. Okay, so this is back trying to help.
Okay.
Okay, that's dumb. So we're just going to guess one. All right, this is stupid.
I'm ready.
Reviewing your answers, generating custom feedback. So here's what we know about Jeff.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh my God, you got to enter an email.
Don't do it. It's not worth it. This is the problem with clickbait. I just want your review of how I did. That's what I want.
No, I'm with you. I think the vast.
I cannot express to people enough. Like if you're in your 40s, 30s, 20s and dating, I can't express enough. The first thing you need to do is identify your strengths and weaknesses. Are you good looking? Are you not? Are you funny? Are you not? Are you intelligent? Are you not? And once you know what those strengths are, find ways to play into them because your dating game is going to be so different than other people. I have friends that are so good looking that they're like, why do you try to make
name one?
No. I will. It doesn't bother me any. I had friends that were so good looking that like the idea of like spending your time trying to make a girl laugh was a waste of time. Like, why would I try to make a girl laugh? She's already into me. And you know what? They're not wrong. Like they're not saying anything that isn't right. But for me to go about it the same way would have been a disaster. You have to identify who you are.
Yes. I think too. I think the biggest downfall for most people is they take themselves way too seriously on both sides.
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting in a bar and you're watching whatever, and there's an NBA game on the background, and every now and then you're gonna look up and be like, "Why can't Miami make a shot?" Like, there's nothing. It's not. You're not doing brain surgery. You're not cramming for a midterm. It's I don't know. I think is the biggest. People try to come across as way too important or way too serious or whatever. There's a level of self-deprecation that is necessary.
Can I respond to that? Because I think you're hitting a really crucial point. I think a lot of people, if you go into a date and you're focused on how to not embarrass yourself, your focus isn't on the date. Your focus isn't on them or the other date. So you are already like, it's more about you than about them. And that's a problem. So like to your point, you were kind of saying like you weren't saying being yourself, but you were basically implying like, it's not rocket science, relax. It's okay to be like, make a joke about yourself. You don't have to be this perfect person. But I think even deeper than that is everything you just explained is you're more worried about you than you are worried about getting to know the person across from you. Do I even like this person? Can they laugh? Can they enjoy themselves? Like, I don't know. I would say focus more across the table than worrying about embarrassing yourself or taking yourself too seriously. Did that make sense?
Yes, I agree.
And I thought it went along with what you said.
Yes. I'd also like, as a guy, especially depending on where you're going, you don't. If you're someplace that you need to be dressed up, you don't want to be underdressed. But the ability to, like, if you're doing nothing or just whatever, and to show up in totally like shorts and a t-shirt, like you just wore what you had on.
Yeah.
Also lays a level of I'm not trying to impress you with stuff. I'm just I'm just here and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with that. I like one of the best things that I've ever heard you say when you're in high school, and if you're going to take somebody on your first date, if you're a teenager, go get ice cream.
I agree.
Don't go to the movies. Don't do anything expensive. Go to ice cream. You get to talk. It's cheap. You get to really like conversate and figure out who they are. And like, I think that's one of the most ingenious things I've ever heard you say.
Everybody likes ice cream.
Everybody, and if they don't like ice cream, you need to leave.
Lactose intolerance or something. If you find someone who can eat ice cream that just doesn't like it,
yeah,
right, that person is not for you. No, did I ever tell you when I was teaching in Baltimore, and it was outside. It was in the county school, and this kid. There were two kids in class, and really nice kids. And he was taking her out on her first day. They might have been. I bet they couldn't even drive. And he's rattling off all these things he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I think his family had a little bit of money because he racked up a bill. And I'm just like, I'm calculating this. Well, we're going to go to dinner, and then we're going to do this. They're like 16 years old, maybe 15. Like,
yeah.
And I remember I said, dude, you know what I would do? Go get ice cream. And she's sitting over there going,
right.
So, no, I agree.
I will say this, too. As someone who grew up in, like, a smaller town, it's not the worst thing in the world to have, like, a 15 or 20-minute drive to whatever you're going to do. Because now you're kind of stuck. It's intimate.
Yeah.
You really have to, like, talk. And it's not talk in the sense of, like, there's stuff going on around you and point out. Like, you really have to figure out, do I connect with this person or don't?
It is real.
Yeah.
And I've learned this in parenthood. Conversation in the car is one of the more underappreciated things. When you're young, when the kids are young in the car, they're just like, and then it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
But as you get older and they don't want to hang around you anymore, now you're like, I've got them locked in the car.
Yeah.
So yes, there are lots of situations, and you're right. This is not a bad one either. Like I always think, in a small town, walk to get the ice cream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If
same concept, right?
Yes. Because all you can do for these 10 minutes is talk.
Yep.
And if you're walking and if you're on your phone all the time, then you're doomed.
No, I'm with you. Tastes like good. A 5'5" guy. I can't stress enough how Jeff's know your strengths comment is true. Biggest key to dating is understanding and being comfortable with yourself. And thank God I'm funny. There you go.
Can taste like good shoot 3 pointers.
Oh, he could. He was a phenomenal volleyball player, actually.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Well,
really
let me rephrase that. Anyone can shoot them. Can you make them?
Can you make them? Yeah, people can make them. He tastes like good can make them.
Well, you can make them.
Tastes Like Good can make them.
Okay.
He can do it. Yeah, no, I don't really have any other, like, do you have like a funny dating story or like a funny experience? I mean, maybe you can't share them.
A friend of mine has like 50 funny dating stories, and I probably can't tell any of them.
Do you have a worst one? Like, do you have a date that when you reflect back on it, you were just like, what a disaster? And it may had nothing to do with the date. It just, the way it worked out was just bad. Do you have one of those? Nothing like that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've set up on a blind date once. It didn't go well.
Okay. But that's not your fault. Blind dates are tough.
To the people who it was
yeah.
2 and it was a month and the son because the mom
was it a third, fourth wheel thing or just you two? Okay.
I think
I did a couple
I went with friends. I took the friends just in case so we could.
Oh, so they were the third, fourth wheel.
So it wasn't, yeah, so it was not all that uncomfortable.
I went on a couple of like third, fourth wheel where like there was already a couple, and then like I went with like the other couple's friend just because like a group, and those didn't always go very well. That was kind of
and I could relate when you said like you never bowled anyone over on your first appearance. Like I know because I always try to be funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes to a fault,
and
I can come across as obnoxious.
I've told you it's your defense mechanism. You use it as a way to kind of try to deflate the air in the room.
Yeah. So I know like I'm an acquired taste. I've never picked up anyone in a bar.
Like, yeah, you've told me
on
that.
a first meeting, like never.
Yeah.
It takes there's kind of a I was gonna say a wear down process. It's a wear down. It's kind of like he's not so bad.
So my girlfriend and I joke all the time about how like I used to say this to her when we early on started dating, and we would talk about our past and our histories, and I would say to her, I was like, you have to understand, like I was like after you saw me for the third time, you'd go to your car with your friend and you'd be like, you know, it was kind of funny, Jeff. Like you were not talking about me the first time you got back into your car. Like you weren't. But then, you know, after we went out a couple of times, couple of jokes, some good times, chill out. But yeah, it is. And again, like I had some bad experiences too. But it's funny how your brain works. A lot of times you block those out. Like you have to really dig into the memory bank to think about some of like your worst dates or some of the things that didn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember dating a girl who was very long. She was nice, but it was just when you talk about know the strengths and know the man, like she was way too hoity-toity, and just like I'll give you one. She'd gone to this is one I lived in Baltimore. She'd gone to the University of Maryland, and she was a big Maryland basketball fan. And Maryland is good at basketball, and especially back then they had a good run.
Okay.
And she's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, well, I'm watching the game. And this is when I worked on a sports talk show in Baltimore. So the Maryland basketball is a big thing. I said, what? I was just going to sit home tonight and watch the game because it's a big game I really need to watch. And she goes, well, I'm going to watch the game too. So why don't you come over and watch it? And I was like, all right, well then, yeah. So I went over and watched the game, and the game was over, and I got to leave. She's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. I didn't watch the game.
That's pretty bad.
And she was just like, why are we going to hang out now? I was like, no, we're not going to hang out now.
That's pretty bad.
I was just going to stay home and watch the game, and you said, well, come watch it.
You guys were dating or weren't dating?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, that one's pretty bad. This one isn't a dating one, but I think I've told you the story about Melanie. Have I told you the story about Melanie? So I'll try to keep it to like 3 minutes because it is a good story. So just having fun as a kid. I remember I went to a concert at Bucknell with my cousins. It was a Wiz Khalifa concert, who's been in Pennsylvania as of recently.
Wait. Is he black and yellow?
He is black and yellow, yes.
See, I know my stuff.
So went to a Wiz Khalifa concert. So as we were going, obviously we were feeling good would be the politically correct way of putting it. And I started, every time a group of girls would walk by, I would yell for Melanie. Like I would just be like, Melanie, and just because somebody had to be named Melanie. And for whatever reason, nobody that night was named Melanie. Every single group that would walk by would be like, Melanie, and nobody. So this went on for like 3 straight years.
Now it's become the running joke.
It's become the running joke. So we would go out all over the state, everywhere else, and every time we'd see a group, we would just be like, hey, Melanie, and of course, no one ever turned around. So fast forward 3 years, we're at Penn State. I forget where we are. I think we might have been at the GAF, but we're there, we're dancing, all this stuff's going on, and we're doing the Melanie game. And this beautiful girl walks by, and I go, hey, Melanie. And she turns around and she's like, hi. And I kid you not, I turned and looked at my cousins and a couple of my friends, and I made kind of like a, like that, like, oh my, like what do you? And so, and what was funny is in that moment, I had realized I'd never thought about what to do if somebody. What's the next step? Because we had gone 3+ years of nobody ever responding to Melanie. So I turned back, and I think part of it, like I was just so excited. This poor girl, I turned back to her and I go, "You have no idea how long I've been looking for you." And this beautiful girl was terrified. She was so scared, and I don't even blame her. And she just looked at me and just went like, and just kept walking. And I had tears in my eyes afterwards.
You are smooth, buddy.
And listen, I mean, this girl she was gorgeous. I mean, she was the odds too that Melanie was going to be the best looking girl at Penn State. It was just one of those things. So another whole aspect of this too is like, have some plans. Have some run-throughs, know your goal and what you're trying to do. But that is my story about how I let Melanie go. So there you go. I mean, can you imagine being that girl? I mean, that girl must have been terrified.
Yeah, probably. I have some good stories I can't tell. I can tell them off the air, but I can't.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
And some of them are not about me, but I'll tell you one of my really like lifelong friends, salt of the earth guy. We were in a bar once. I might have told you this, and he was like, it shows different strokes for different folks and different tastes, and he's black and I'm white. Whether that has anything to do with anything, but he goes, "Hey, check her out," and he's doing this with his head, and I kind of try to peek, and I'm like, "Which one?" And he's like, "Her," and I was like, and it got to the point I'm like, "Dude, I have no idea who you're talking about."
Right.
He's like, in red, and I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh yeah," and like it's just so funny how that stuff works. Like
the attractiveness.
Yeah.
You know
what works for somebody doesn't work for somebody else.
My girlfriend and I talk about this all the time. I get made fun of by my friends and by her. Because there's a lot of people where like I know, like celebrities that I know they're attractive, but I am not attracted to them. Like I would never, like while I was in high school or college or in my 20s, I never would have approached them. But internally, like I know that 95% of the room thinks they're the best looking person in the room. So it is. Go ahead.
Don't you think that has to do with the next step of like likability?
Maybe. But see, in this case, we're just talking like appearance, just purely appearance. Like I can remember being out with my friends and stuff, and they would be like, "Oh, so and so," and I'd just be like, "I don't see it. Like I don't like internally, I know people find her attractive, but I myself, like I'm looking and I'm like, I don't know." And then vice versa, I have been unbelievably attracted to people, and then like people would just kind of be like, "Yeah, like she's okay."
No,
like it's. So I don't know. It is
have
like.
Have you ever dated someone taller than you?
Oh yeah, multiple.
Boy, see, you're a college basketball player. So
multiple. I was a shorter college basketball player, but even in high school, like I dated a couple of volleyball players. I went on a date with a really good friend. I don't think she'll care that I'm telling the story. I went on a date with a really, really good friend, a friend of my cousin's, and she's probably like an inch or two taller than me. And so I was coaching college basketball. And we show up to the game, and the head coach, Zip, who I've told you about, I walk in with this girl, and Zip's just like looking, and he's like, "Who's she?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's my friend. Like she's here." He's like, "She's with you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, she isn't." And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "No, she isn't." And I was like, "Yeah." And I introduced him, and the whole time he's like, just like slack-jawed, like he couldn't. No, and it had nothing to do with like me or her. It was that she was like legitimately 2 inches taller than me. And he just could not wrap his head around the idea that like, so yeah, I have been in those situations before.
I wonder how many guys have never dated a girl taller than them. If you're like a normal size guy.
Do you
like 5'5", tastes like good as dated girls that are
taller. For sure. Do you have any friends or anybody in your life that like they have one type and they just do not vary from it? Like you already know that if they dated 4 people, those 4 people could stand in a line and they could pass for sisters. Do you have anybody like that?
No, I had a friend who like I think every girl was blonde.
Okay.
I could tell you some that everyone that dated was a nightmare. Does that count? Is that a type?
Is that a type?
No, I don't, because I know what you mean when people see someone with their ex and they're like, the ex looks just like their
Yes.
last one. No, I don't have
Okay.
anyone like that, but I've heard the story.
If I lined up everybody that I had like dated at some point, the variance is off the
No,
charts.
yeah,
There's
like,
no.
I'm with you there.
So what happens though is people go like, "What's your type?" And I never knew how to answer. Like I was like, I like good, like attractive. Like I don't know. Like
No,
I don't
I'm
know.
with you.
I don't know how to like define a type.
Well, I think it just goes to because how you are, because it's just like the people that they love action movies and they love but can you watch a horror movie? Can you watch a love story? Can you watch a rom-com? Can you watch a documentary? And there's people who can watch all of those genres and find them enjoyable, or there's people who are like in their lane.
Right.
And it's probably the same thing, especially once you get beyond like what they look like, and now you have to talk to them and what they have to say.
Do you think those people are happier though?
The people who are like this?
The people who date in their lane, like, do you think that simplifies? Like, in a way, you're almost always getting what you want. Yeah. Is that a weird way of saying it?
I mean, if there's enough fish in that barrel, then yes. We were talking about with the Denver Nuggets. They have 7 guys that are going to play them. So like, there is a happiness to simplicity,
right?
And I've heard this said. Colin Cowherd, who said this while he was doing. I don't know if he's still on the radio or not. He's on TV a lot now.
He's on Fox all the time.
He was on the radio show. He's like, guys are so simple. Guys have like 3 hobbies, and if they're doing any of those 3 hobbies, they're happy. Mm-hmm. And as watered down, it's close.
Yeah.
And so yes, I think for women it would be. I think women have more of a type than guys do. I
would agree with, in my experience, I would agree with that.
And I think because women kind of have more, I don't say more the pick of the litter, but guys, we're kind of relegated to who likes us back, as opposed to women who are kind of like fighting them off.
Interesting.
Anything?
Yeah. Did you have, real quick, another piece of dating advice for guys? Do not take most of your dating advice from women. I will hear my wife and sisters give guys advice, and it would be awful advice because they don't date women.
He's on to something there. Did you ever know anyone that dated someone and then dated their sibling?
Yes.
Is it you?
No.
Oh, the way you said that, I was like, wait, I don't know.
No, it's not me. No, I mean,
did it work?
Well, so in a lot of small towns, I've told you before, like dating in small towns is unique because if you can't get over stuff, you're in trouble. Because there's just the pool is just not big enough. So like your friend is going to, some of my biggest regrets, like when I reflect back, some of my biggest regrets was like not being okay or not getting over things quicker. Because when it's happening in the moment, it's devastating. But when you reflect back, it's like, who else were they going to date? Like, what else were they going to do? So I think some of that is more small town where you live. You run into some of that stuff more than other places.
Oh, yeah, I would think.
Yeah.
I would think.
But no, I've seen the sibling trade-off, if that's what you're implying.
Like,
does it work?
See, you don't have
No.
I just think it would be weird.
Well, listen, it would be, I couldn't do it. I personally, if I had a brother or like, if I, even like, it would just be weird. It would be difficult. I actually, this is such a weird conversation. I actually turned down a younger sister of a former person that I dated. I don't regret it. The point I'm making to you is like, it is, like I think some people wouldn't care. Like for some people it'd be like, well, it doesn't, like if I'm attracted to this person, I'm attracted to this person. But for me, like it was just kind of awkward. Like I just couldn't get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't say it's wrong because it's just like whether it works or whether it doesn't work. No.
Did you have any? This was well done, producer Mark Mussina. Do you have anything else there?
No, I was going to say back when you're talking about high school, Williamsport would be a little different. but the vast majority of us went to a small high school. Even the bigger ones in the area, the Steeles Groves, the Jersey Shores, State College is big. That doesn't count. But you're right. Like, people end up dating people, and a lot of the dating just becomes territorial.
Sure.
It becomes, it's more of a, there should be high school kids, both guys and girls, should be coached more in how to successfully manage social relationships in high school. Because your example of being able to turn the page and say it was, it's like a sports season. Like, if you date for 6 months or whatever it comes to, it's like the season. It came and it ended, and we won some games, we lost some games. It didn't go as great as we'd hoped, because it never does. But whatever. And now we leave with a smile on our face and we move on.
Right.
And there's too much angst.
But in the moment, I get it. Like, I understand why I felt the way I felt in that moment. I just, without the perspective of like 20 years forward, now I look back and I'm like, oh, we kind of wasted some moments, some time there where like it really didn't matter.
But in defense, it is hard.
It's
like
super hard.
When my ex and I split, I didn't have to see her every day.
Yeah.
And if you have to go to school, and I like, especially if you're the dumpy.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, she didn't want to be with me anymore, so she could be with that moron.
Yes.
And that, because once you get into adult life, you don't have to see it.
Correct.
It's not in your face.
That's a very good point of how much more difficult it would be. It's not even about age, is your point. It's more about
being in your
it's the dynamic of having to see it.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Yes. It's like on Grey's Anatomy, where they all dated each other and
in the hospital. I said it can't be, if it's more than 25% like Grey's Anatomy, I don't know how hospitals function. It just can't be. But also, this is the part that I think we don't think about, though. They are, like, I don't want to say they're confined to the hospital, but I would imagine that's one of the few professions, especially early on in your career, where like you really don't get to do anything outside of that building a ton.
Well, it can be, the hours can be long, I'm sure. Did you watch Grey's?
Mm-hmm. Well, until like I think I did season 11.
Okay, well that.
And then I think I tapped out. Yeah.
But my ex and I were like, we love that show. We watch it all the time. And the thing that drove me nuts about it was, and I get it's a primetime drama. There has to be tension. And I said to her, these best friends, especially guys, they fight every week. I said, I've had friends that I've never, like you and I have never had a harsh word.
Yeah.
And I was like, these people fight every, like in the hallway. They're like, F you, whatever. It's like, this does not happen in my world.
Right.
I can name you friends that I have never had a loud argument with.
Right.
And these people, they're best friends. They fight every week. So that drove me nuts about the show. But I understand it's a drama. Like, it can't be just like, hey, what's up? No, I'm going to do a knee replacement. Oh, we got a hernia over here. Okay, see ya.
Right.
Like, they have to be yelling at each other. No one would watch.
I agree.
Anyway.
What else before we go?
Okay, NBA playoffs. You think the Celtics might make history?
I think the Celtics can make history. I think there's a difference between thinking they will and thinking they can. I think they can.
They were down 3-0.
Yep.
In the NBA, it's never happened.
Yes.
A team has never come back from a 3-0 deficit to win a best-of-7 series.
Yep.
So Boston, they won game. So here's where we're at. They were on death's door, obviously. They won game 4 in Miami. So game 5 is back home in Boston. If they win that, they have to go to Miami and steal one more. Game 6 will be in Miami, and then they go back. So 2 out of the next 3 games are at home, but they lost 3 out of the first 4. I think they lose tonight. I think it's over tonight.
In Boston.
I think Miami will come back and win in Boston.
Interesting.
And we'll see. But if they win tonight in Boston, the tension level for Miami in Game 6 at home will be through the roof.
So my friend Rums said that this is a must-win for the Miami Heat. And I said, the only time you can have 2 teams with a must-win is a Game 7. Anything before Game 7 can't be a must-win for both teams. So there's no way this is a must-win for Miami. This is a must-win.
In Miami, it might be a must-win.
How is that? How?
Because they just dumped 3 in a row. Now they're going to Boston, and it's hard to win Game 7s on the road. Doc Rivers will tell you it's hard to win Game 7.
Doc.
Sorry, I like Dr. Endeavor. Since
Have
pointed
you?
that out,
I don't know if you know this or not. So the coach for Boston Celtics, his name is Joe Mazzulla. Have you ever? Okay. Have you heard his nickname
He's
yet?
a kid. He's like 34.
He's pretty young. Have you heard his nickname yet that they've given him, like the media? So on the Simmons podcast, his dad started calling him Second Row Joe because he's never been in the front row until this season. So now on all these podcasts and on media, everyone's calling him Second Row Joe, and it just like it's
His
stuck.
dad started it.
Yes, and now
awesome.
like if you go on ESPN or like any of the podcasts, it's just Second Row Joe. But what a great nickname.
Well, and see, and that to go back to take it all full circle, like if he embraces that,
Oh
then
yeah.
he is the.
It's hard to embrace it though when you're down 3-0.
Well, I get it. But
Yeah.
I mean, he's coached the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not like they've been a failure.
No, but this is a team that's been to the finals, Eastern Conference Final. Like
They're good. He
they're
didn't overachieve.
not to
but
be a
he
jerk.
didn't fall
You and
short.
I could have taken the Boston Celtics to the Eastern Conference Final this year. That's the point I'm making.
Well, you could have, but yes, like you are evenly keeled as a person, adjusted. You are well adjusted as a person. If you're the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and you're just like, yeah, I'm the
Second row Joe. But what a great he first. So his dad said it, and Bill Simmons was like, "What?" And he was like, "This is his first year in the front row of an NBA game." And then Bill kind of thought about it. He was like, "Ah, it makes a ton of sense. Second row Joe."
That is awesome.
Pretty good. That's not his fault though, because Udoka got suspended.
Right.
And then their second assistant, Will Hardy, I don't want to say stolen, but got hired by the Utah Jazz right before the season started. So all of a sudden, Boston was looking around. Brad Stevens had moved up to the offices. So all of a sudden, they're looking around, and they go from having 4 potential coaches to 1. And here's second row Joe stepping up to the front. Big high step over that front row of chairs up to the sideline.
That is awesome.
I think this is Nuggets. Nuggets are gonna. I don't even know if it matters. I was looking this up. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
If the Denver Nuggets, they have already, or I'm sorry, if the Boston Celtics were to get to the NBA Finals, they would have there's no way the Nuggets can play as many games as the Boston Celtics have already played. Think about that for a second.
So
I might have been a bad job of saying that, but
because Denver has flown through the playoffs.
Yeah,
And
not
Boston
flown, but
has
it's been 5, 6, and 4. And even Miami, if you go through and look at what Miami's done, I mean, so Denver's rested. They're sitting there waiting. They have the best player. They might have the 2 best players left.
They're hot, and Denver's never been there before. How about you wouldn't know the Florida Panthers hockey team plays in Miami.
Okay.
They won last night. They scored the game winner with 5 seconds to go.
Okay.
They were up 3-2 and gave up the tying goal of like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It was 3-0 in the series, so they're trying to close it out at home.
Okay.
And Carolina scored like 3 minutes ago. So you're like, oh, it's going overtime. And I wasn't even watching. I was following on my phone. So I clicked to see, and then it said 4-3.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute. It was like there was 20 seconds to go.
Okay.
So I went to the box score with 5 seconds to go. But anyway, so the Heat and the Panthers, who I assume play in the same arena,
Okay.
are both the Heat are 1 game away. Like South Florida, this will be the most exciting spring South Florida's had in a while.
They, I don't know, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade played together for like 4 straight seasons. Did you see the quote?
I wonder if because the Panthers have been good before. I wonder if they were good. That's good.
Then.
It may have happened then too.
Did you see the quote from the losing hockey coach about being swept? So which they were swept. Correct me if I'm wrong. And who was the name of what was the team?
Carolina Hurricanes.
So the Carolina Hurricanes get swept. Their coach during the post-game press
Rod
conference.
Brindamore.
Okay, he said, and I'm gonna biff this, but he essentially said, "I know what a sweep looks like. I was at all of these games. We did not get swept." That was his quote.
Well, they lost literally. I think it was like 3-2, 2-1,
Okay.
1-0,
Okay.
4-3,
Okay.
with the game winner with 5 seconds to go. So they didn't get blown out.
Correct.
They were all 1-goal games.
But they did
But
get
it's still a sweep.
but they did get swept.
That's right.
So, but the ability for some people to get on a microphone and just say what isn't fascinates me. Because you did get, now listen, if he gets up on the mic and he's like, "I'm really proud of our guys. We played really well," all that stuff, I get it. But to say you didn't get swept, like you did get swept,
Yes,
like
he picked. If he would have said it was the most evenly played sweep in NHL. Like,
Dude,
there's lots of better ways to say
coaches on a microphone at the end of the season vying to keep their job, like vying to keep the fan base off of them. Did you see what Darvin Ham said for the Los Angeles Lakers?
You told me about the refs.
So in the last game, so they get swept by the Nuggets. He goes up to the podium and he didn't even get asked the question. He goes, something about the referees. And then his exact quote was, "We just want consistency and fairness." For those who don't know, the Los Angeles Lakers just set records for free throws attempted in a season and in a playoffs, and discrepancy in free throws shot. And their coach has the kahunas to go up on stage, to go up on that mic and say, "All we want is fairness and consistency." It is incredible.
It is crazy.
It's crazy.
Because you told me this like a month ago. The gap between how many free throws the Lakers had shot and everybody else.
They shot more than double the amount of free throws that the second place team shot. So imagine how many more free throws they shot than the average or the last place team.
So for their coach to come on and say, "We just want consistency."
It is. So in the last 24 hours, a hockey coach said they didn't get swept when they got swept, and a coach who benefited from the greatest free throw shooting discrepancy ever claimed that all they want is consistency and fairness so that they can win an NBA playoff series.
Yeah.
It is wild. That's almost as bad as that's basically politics creeping into sports. That's a deeper conversation.
We need more sports creeping into politics.
But that was the other way around.
Right,
That's coaches going up there and saying whatever they want to say.
Stuff that's totally not true and just be like, "Well, I said it."
I said yes.
What are you gonna do?
There's nothing you can.
Yeah.
All right, say goodbye to everybody. Close us out. Since you produced, created, directed.
Goodbye to everyone. Thank you. Send your thank you notes for your dating life improvement.
Oh my gosh.
Care of NCPA.
Yes, his email is mark@NorthcentralPa.com if you're trying to reach Jeff.
He's the man. You're trying to reach Jeff. Well done. Well done.
Thank you guys for watching Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
Do I even have to turn my mic off since it hasn't worked yet?
No, probably not. Probably not.